About a year and a half apart, the first one hitting him in 2004.
And these weren't just close calls. They seem to have completely changed how he saw everything. Life, health, even the soul itself. We want to explore those key moments and the lessons he took away.
Definitely. So let's start with that first NDE back in 2004. He initially thought he just had the flu, right?
Yeah, something pretty common. But it turned out to be, well, incredibly serious.
Incredibly serious, is putting it mildly. He was only 24, and suddenly he's hit with kidney failure, pneumonia, pancreatitis, fluid in his lung, a stomach parasite. Oh, and an AIDS diagnosis on top of it all.
Wow, just a devastating list. And the prognosis.
They gave him about 7 days to live. At 24. It's hard to even imagine getting that news.
Absolutely staggering. And while he's in the hospital facing this, he has this experience, this life review.
Yeah, exactly. He described it like watching his whole life play out, almost like on a movie screen.
But it wasn't just seeing events, was it?
No, that's the interesting part. It was focused. Focused on the choices he'd made, and maybe even more pointedly, the choices he hadn't made, the things he didn't do.
And that process, that review, led to some pretty fundamental questions arising for him.
Right. 5 key questions sort of bubbled up from within as he watched his life unfold. Really core human stuff.
Okay, what were they?
Well, the first was basically, was I happy with the life I lived? Simple, but profound. Then, had I ever really been myself? No, authentic.
That hits deep.
Yeah. Third, did I feel good about myself? That sense of self-worth.
Okay.
Fourth was about connections. Had I expressed how I truly felt about the people in my life?
Oof. That's a big one for many people, I think.
For sure. And the last one, did I feel like I was fulfilling my soul's purpose? Like, was I doing what I was here to do?
Okay, so 5 really searching questions. Now, he mentioned something interesting. Initially, he wasn't actually scared of dying.
Right. He already had this belief, this conviction, that the soul, it doesn't just end with the body, it continues.
So if it wasn't death itself, what caused the terror he described feeling?
Well, this is where it gets really powerful. The terror kicked in when he realized the answer, his internal answer, to all 5 of those questions was no.
Oh, wow. All of them.
Every single one. And suddenly, facing what he thought was the end, he was hit with this overwhelming regret. Not regret about dying, but regret about not having truly lived.
That's a heavy realization.
Yeah, incredibly, yeah. But it also sparked something.
A will to live.
Exactly. A fierce determination. He decided right then he had to survive so he could change those no's to yeses.
And he didn't just wait for things to get better. He actively started doing things.
Very actively. He started journaling, gratitude and appreciation journaling 3 times a day.
Okay.
He did visualization exercises. He even got like a 3D model of kidneys to focus on.
That's specific.
Right. He changed his diet drastically, and he created what he called a positive bubble around himself.
What did that involve?
Basically using his parents as a buffer. They'd filter out the negative medical updates so he could stay focused on positivity and healing.
That makes sense. You're shielding his mindset. And there was something else too, something with his parents each night.
Oh yeah, that was really quite lovely. Every night, the 3 of them, before sleep, would share 3 things they loved about each other. And the rule was it had to be different things each night for each person. Just imagine the impact of consciously focusing on love and appreciation like that daily.
It sounds incredibly powerful for connection and morale. So he's doing all this, and then what happened?
Well, the unexpected, truly unexpected given where he started. After about a month on dialysis, they released him from the hospital.
Okay.
And then, within just 2 months of being home, he experienced a complete physical recovery.
Complete. From all those diagnoses.
Apparently so. The doctors were baffled. They called it a miracle.
I can see why, given the initial 7-day prognosis.
Absolutely. And Jerome, at this point, he thought he'd crack it. He figured he'd learned how to manifest healing, how to use his mind and intention to fix his body.
He thought he had the formula.
Kind of, yeah. But the universe, or his soul maybe, had more to teach him.
Because he ended up back in the hospital.
Yeah, roughly a year and a half later. And here's the kicker.
What?
Same hospital, same doctors, and the exact same diagnoses. Even the T-cell count was identical.
You're kidding. That's uncanny.
Right. And this time, the outlook was even worse. They gave him 48 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But his internal experience this time was totally different. No life review like before.
What happened instead?
It was more like a knowing. An immediate realization that this wasn't just bad luck or a coincidence. This was a message.
A message from his soul, he felt.
Exactly. And that led to different questions this time. Not about past regrets, but about deeper understanding.
Like what?
Like, what is it my soul really wants me to get from this? And what does it actually take to truly heal and live a well life?
Moving beyond just surviving to thriving.
Precisely. A much deeper inquiry.
And then came the second NDE.
Right after he focused on those questions, yeah. He described losing his sense of body completely, just feeling one with everything, no separation.
Wow.
And this experience of like a super bright light and a really deep dark, but simultaneously.
A paradox.
Yeah. And then he heard a voice. He identified it as source or God.
Okay. What did it sound like?
Interestingly, he said it sounded like his own voice, but his centered, grounded, most well self. Like his higher self, maybe.
Fascinating. And did this voice give him answers?
It gave him two absolutely core messages that really became the foundation for everything that followed for him.
Okay, what were they?
The first was the key, the fundamental key to healing the body and living a truly well life is to wholly love oneself.
Wholly love oneself. Okay.
And the second message was a bit more nuanced. It was something like, you know how to force life to be good, how to strive and push, but you don't know how to let life be good.
Let life be good.
Yeah. The idea being that life is actually designed to be good to us, to support us, if we can just learn to allow it, to trust that flow instead of constantly fighting or forcing.
That's a big shift in perspective, from control to allowance.
A huge shift. And when he came back into his body this time, he said it was like a download.
A download.
Like instant knowing. He knew, without a doubt, that his purpose was now to teach others about this connection, about self-love as the tool for healing and for, well, manifesting a truly good life.
So he got his marching orders, so to speak.
You could say that. And he also got another really stark piece of insight.
Which was?
That his old self, the way he operated before, the way he thought and lived, it would kill him, literally.
Wow.
So there was no going back. He had to surrender. He had to embrace a completely new way of being.
Which sounds easier said than done.
Oh, definitely. He described it as a long journey, understanding what self-love even means in practice and then embodying it. That meant undoing years of social conditioning, healing old wounds, addressing trauma. It wasn't a quick fix.
Right, it's deep work.
Very deep. And something else interesting happened after this second NDE. His intuitive gifts started opening up.
Psychic abilities.
Yeah, he became a medical intuitive, able to sense health issues in others, and also a medium.
So these experiences kind of unlocked those channels for him.
It seemed so.
Yeah.
And this gave him a different perspective on illness itself, looking at it from an energetic level, from the soul's perspective.
And what did he understand from that viewpoint?
He saw how things like shame, or constantly suppressing your true feelings, or importantly, not living your purpose, how these things actually drain the soul's energy.
Deplete it.
Yeah. And that depletion, that lack of vital energy, could then manifest physically as illness.
So the soul needs nourishment too.
Absolutely. It needs to be fed, he realized.
Yeah.
Fed through living your purpose, pursuing passions, things that light you up, and crucially, through genuine self-appreciation. Not ego, but real appreciation.
Which ties back to that core message of self-love.
Exactly. It all started connecting. And his view of disease itself just completely flipped.
How so?
Instead of seeing it as this enemy, this terrible thing to be fought, he started seeing it as a sacred teacher.
A sacred teacher.
Yeah. Like, not a punishment, but a guide. A signpost trying to point you back to the truth of who you are, back to what your soul actually needs.
That's a profoundly different way to approach illness, taking the fear and antagonism out of it.
Right, seeing it as a message, an invitation to look within and see what's out of alignment.
So how did his life actually change after all this? Did he manage to live differently?
Dramatically, based on his account, he really leaned into living authentically, pursuing his intuitive work, expressing himself without holding back, prioritizing what felt fulfilling to him rather than chasing external approval.
He started answering those 5 questions with yes.
That seems to be the core of it, yeah. He fundamentally transformed his relationship with himself and therefore with life and health. That shift from seeing disease as an enemy to seeing it as a teacher was just monumental.
Absolutely. Okay, so wrapping this up, let's crystallize some of these insights from Jerome's incredible story.
Well, first, there's the undeniable power of deep self-reflection. You know, really asking ourselves those big, sometimes uncomfortable questions about happiness, authenticity, purpose.
And the huge importance of living authentically, actually aligning our lives with who we truly feel we are and what our soul seems to be calling for.
Definitely. And then perhaps the biggest takeaway is the transformative power of self-love. Not just as a nice idea, but as a fundamental practice for healing, for well-being, for creating a life that genuinely feels good.
It repositions self-love from a nice-to-have to the absolute core requirement.
Exactly. And tied to that is that really surprising perspective on illness.
Yeah.
Seeing it not as a failure or a punishment, but potentially as a catalyst.
A catalyst for growth, for course correction, for returning to our true selves.
Yeah, a guide back home, in a way. It really challenges how most of us are conditioned to think about sickness.
It really does. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Consider Jerome's 5 questions again.
Yeah.
Was I happy? Was I authentic? Did I feel good about myself? Did I express my feelings? Am I fulfilling my purpose? What answers come up for you right now? No judgment, just observation. And maybe, what might your own soul be trying to gently tell you? What needs acknowledging or embracing in your life?
Yeah, Jerome's journey offers such a unique, powerful lens to look at our own paths of self-discovery and what it means to live a truly well life.